We're live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Township of North Dumfries Public Planning Meeting for November 23rd. We have 3 Committee of Adjustment applications scheduled for this evening's meeting. Members of the public who have registered before the registration deadline for all items have been provided with a link and telephone number to join the virtual meeting this evening and have indicated to staff which application they would like to participate in. Staff will move these individuals who have registered into the meeting to speak in the order of the application being heard. It's due to COVID-19 and recommendations by Waterloo Region Public Health to exercise social distancing and public gathering thresholds. Township public meetings are currently being held at a teleconference. Members of the public have been provided with the following methods to watch and participate in this open meeting electronically. First, you can watch the live stream by accessing the meeting through the Township's website. You do not need a YouTube account to watch the live stream. You cannot directly participate in the meeting via the live stream, as this is a viewing only. Second, members of the public who were interested in attending as an observer or wish to speak to an item were to submit their request in writing to the Clerk's Division before 7 p.m. on November 22nd. A link and a telephone number has been provided to those who registered before the registration deadline. And finally, members of the public who wanted to comment on a particular item but were not able to attend the meeting virtually were invited to submit written comments to the Clerk's Division, which would then be provided to the Mayor and Council prior to the meeting. I'd now like to call the meeting to order, please. And can I please have approval of the agenda?
So moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rollman that Council adopt the November 23rd, 2021 public meeting agenda as presented with the following addendum. 1, add correspondence to item 7.3, report number PD-62-2021, minor variance application file number A-09-21 for 99 Stanley Street. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Indigenous Territory Acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. I would like to now pause for a moment of reflection where we may think back on the past, think about today and how we will strive to make it better, and hopefully move forward with our Indigenous partners to a better and stronger nation. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, can I have the adoption of the minutes for the public meeting held September 28th?
Moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Rollman that Council approve the public planning meeting minutes dated September 28th, 2021. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. We'd now like to move from council to the Committee of Adjustment. Can I have the motion, please?
So moved by Councillor Rossner and seconded by Councillor McCreary that the council meeting be adjourned at 7:04 p.m. To sit as Committee of Adjustment for the purposes of holding public meetings pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Counselor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Now we'll wait. Cynthia, are we ready with the first group of people?
Yes.
Thank you very much then. So Committee of Adjustment, minutes meeting of the 28th, we've done, correct? Nope, that's next. Minutes of the September 28th?
That's correct, yes. So moved by Counselor Gillespie and seconded by Counselor Rowland that Committee of Adjustment approve the meeting minutes dated September 28th, 2021. Counselor Rowland,
Yes.
Counselor Osner,
Yes.
Counselor McCurry,
Yes.
Counselor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. So we're on 7.2, report number PD 61-2021, minor variance application file number A-10/21 for 246 Piper Street. Notice has been given to those who have requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended and or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meetings this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd now like to introduce Christine Blazinovic, a planner GIS technician who will be presenting the application. Christina?
Here.
Is she here? There you are. Sorry, Christina.
Okay, thank you. Let me just make sure my mic is on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Mayor, councilors, and administration. This evening, I will be presenting the recommendation report regarding minor variance application A-10/21 for 246 Piper Street. A public meeting was held on October 26th to solicit comments from members of the public. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to advance a recommendation for the committee's consideration on the merits of the application. The property is located on Piper Street, west of Rose Street. The property is 0.81 acres in size with a lot frontage of 30 meters onto Piper Street. There is currently a two-story detached dwelling and a shed on the property. The property is serviced by municipal water and sewer, and the property is listed on the Municipal Heritage Registry. The purpose of this minor variance application is to construct an accessory building within the front yard of the property. The applicant is requesting 4 variances, which include permitting an accessory building within the front yard, permitting an increased maximum floor area of 76.2 meters squared for all accessory buildings, permitting an habitable room above an accessory building, including a work from home office, and lastly, permitting a maximum height of 7.33 meters. The photo on the right shows a proposed garage in comparison to the principal dwelling. Planning staff are of the opinion that the requested variances meet the 4 tests of a minor variance as outlined by the Planning Act. The first test being that the proposed variances conform with the general intent of the zoning bylaw. In this case, the subject property is Zone 5, urban residential, and an accessory building is a permitted use in this zone. Number 2, do the proposed variances conform with the general intent of the official plan? Residential uses and accessory buildings are permitted uses within the built-up area and the urban residential and ancillary designations. Number 3, are the proposed variances desirable? So a garage is desirable for this property as there's currently no existing garage on the property. The accessory building is also a permitted use on this property. And the homeowners and applicant had previously stated that there's very little usable basement space in the principal dwelling, as the dwelling is quite old. So the proposed accessory building will provide some additional habitable space. Number 4, are the variances minor? The proposed accessory building will remain subordinate to the principal dwelling. Due to the location of trees, it's not practical to locate the accessory building in the rear yard. And the proposed size of the garage is large. The proposed size is slightly larger than what the zoning bylaw permits, and it is an appropriate size for a garage on a property of this size, as it will not overpower the principal dwelling. The accessory building will not be taller than the principal dwelling, and it will not block the view of the principal dwelling. Alternate locations for the accessory building were examined during a site visit. As you can see on the photo, in the photo on the left, the western portion of the property labeled A is heavily treed and landscaped, which is not a realistic or desirable location. The eastern portion of the property labeled B contains a large tree, and the extension of the driveway would heavily disrupt the root system. The main entrances to the principal dwelling were also located on the front of the dwelling, so placing the garage in the rear would make this very inconvenient for the homeowners for access. The tree in question is shown in the photo on the right. The owner provided an opinion letter from an arborist on the condition of the tree. The arborist stated that the tree is in good condition and has an estimated age of approximately 80 years. This particular tree has a life expectancy of approximately 140 years. During the public planning meeting on October 26th, there were a few concerns raised from the adjacent property owner to the immediate west. These concerns included drainage and the impact of light. The proposed 3.96 meter setback from the property line is greater than the minimum side yard setback requirement and is a sufficient distance from the property line to accommodate a swale or equivalent. Surface drainage and grading will be reviewed during the building permit process to ensure that there won't be any impact with the drainage. As you can see in the photo, there are existing trees along the west property line that currently impact the light substantially. So the proposed accessory building will not create further impact to that. There is one larger window located on the adjacent residence, and the proposed accessory building is set farther back as to not further impact the natural light to that specific window. There were no other concerns from agencies, but since the last planning meeting on October 26th, there were two new comments. One being from Public Works. So Public Works will require an updated grading plan. And the Heritage Advisory Committee held a meeting to review the minor variance application as the properties listed on the Municipal Heritage Registry. So the committee is generally in agreement that the proposed location is acceptable if there are no other appropriate locations on the property. The committee advised that neighborhood character be maintained and that the design is consistent with the principal dwelling. And it was also suggested that landscaping around the accessory building can be incorporated. Based on the planning analysis, staff recommend that minor variance A-10/21 for 246 Piper Street be approved with conditions that the accessory building shall be set back from Piper Street by a minimum of 23.98 meters. And the proposed accessory building shall be set back from the west property line by a minimum distance of 3.96 meters and a minimum distance of 18 meters from the east property line. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blazanovic. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Osner?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My questions are in regard to the property to the west, the sales property. So the 3.96 setback, have they adjusted it since the original application, or was it always a 3.9 setback? Second question was, since the last meeting, have the sales, the neighbors been contacted, and any other concerns, have they been, addressed with them personally? Like, were there concerns that they were raised? Has anything been talked to about with them?
Thank you. Through Madam Mayor to Councilor Osner. The original 3.96 meters setback, that was original from when the application was submitted. Nothing was adjusted. And there were no additional concerns since the last public meeting from the adjacent property owner that were raised.
Were they contacted and asked if there was any additional concerns, or did we just not get any more concerns from them?
They were not contacted, but they weren't any more concerns brought up.
Actually, I went out of order. I'm going to let Ms. McCreary speak, Councilor McCreary, and then we're going to go back to asking the applicant if they have anything to say, and then we will go to the committee. So Ms. McCreary, your question first, and then Andrew, do you have anything to say? CO McNeely first?
Mayor, if I could, just to clarify, All those that participated in the October public meeting, including the sales, were notified last week that the staff report was being presented this evening and how to access a copy of the staff report and the recommendation. We have not received any further comments from the sales other than what they raised at the October public meeting.
And we do not approach people. They actually put their comments in, but we don't chase after them for comments. Council McCreary, and then we'll go
Sorry,
back to
sorry, can I just finish on that? And
maybe when we come back, because I did go out of order. I did err, and that's my fault. I apologize. Council McCreary?
Thank you, Mayor Foxton. I'm still wondering about the necessity of building this building in the front yard. I'm looking at page 7 of the report. There's a photograph of the tree and the house there. And it appears that there is ample room for the driveway to go between the house and the tree. And that would give access to a very substantial backyard where there's locations, many different possible locations for this building. So why are we not considering putting the driveway in between the house and the tree and putting it in the backyard so minor variance is not even required?
So we will leave that question until after, but please take note and for answering it. And I will now ask the applicant if they'd like to have anything to say. Does the applicant have anything to say? I don't see any hands or notifications. And the sales are listed on here. They may have questions or comments to say. Brad Sales, did you wish to speak?
No, nothing from our end. The two key areas were the setback from the property line and the drainage, and I believe that's been addressed through the grading plan. And I think that was all.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Beckley, you're next, and then Emily. Here I'm mute. There you go.
Thanks, Mayor. No, before Brad was going to speak, I was just going to say the sales' concern was in regards to the property line allowance setback, as well as the drainage, which I believe we've addressed and spoke with Brad and Andrew about that. So I believe we're good there.
Thank you. Emily, have you got a comment?
I wanted to ask one question to clarify the requirement for a grading plan. So oftentimes those are required to be prepared by an OLS, so a land surveyor. Occasionally, we're allowed to shoot some grades ourselves using our contractors' resources to be able to indicate the grading on our plan, since there's no substantial indication of any grading changing, with the exception of maintaining the swale to, of course, protect the neighboring driveways. Can you clarify whether we're able to produce that without a land surveyor involved, or is that something that has to be done as an official topographic survey?
Which staff member is going to respond? Christina? Oh, CEO McNeely, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So at the time of the building permit, there'll be what's called a plot plan that will be required. It will position the building in the context of the lot line. It will also demonstrate that the conditions which have been recommended, if adopted by the committee, how they've been satisfied in terms of the relationship to both the east and west property line, as well as the setback from the Piper Street road allowance. And then, yes, we would be looking at the change in grade around the apron of the proposed building and how stormwater, surface water will be outlet, including that which would come off of downspouts, and how that would be then outlet and away from the adjacent property to the west, as well as the building apron. The building department would require that as part of a complete application, and they require a competent individual to prepare those drawings.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. No further comments or questions from the applicants or public. Seeing none, I'm going to go back to Councilor McCreary's question, which she stated before, and who would like to respond to that question? Christine, CEO McNeely, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilor McCreary is correct. There is sufficient width between the tree and the residence to accommodate a driveway slightly wider than a single car driveway to get into the rear yard. The concern was that the construction of a driveway at that location on the east elevation would cause significant damage to the root system, weaken the tree, and then affect its survivability going forward. Staff, when attending the site after the October 2021 public meeting, did ask the Becklers to provide a arborist opinion, which they did. It's included as an attachment to the staff report. We wanted to be satisfied that the tree itself was in good condition, and that there was a life expectancy to it under normal conditions. And the author of the letter back through to the Becklers, which are included in the staff report, indicated that the tree is in good condition and would have an anticipated life expectancy through to about 140 years under normal conditions.
Thank you, Councillor McNeely. I'm going to go back to Councillor Osner so he can finish his questions, and then we'll go to Councillor Rowland. Councillor Osner. Oh, Councillor, then we'll go back to Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess my question is going to be directed at Brad Sells, because his comments lead me to believe that he's satisfied with the way the plan is as such, and that there's no more concern that he had previously raised to us.
Mr. Sells?
Yep, that's correct, Derek or Councillor Osner. You called the right thing, I guess, but yeah, that's correct. Two main things have been addressed.
Thank you.
Then I'm
Okay, Councillor McCreary.
Continuing on with my question about the tree, driveways typically have a very superficial construction. They don't go very deep. The driveway could be constructed of some permeable type material so that the water goes through, so the tree continues to receive the same amount of water as it always did. So it's very unlikely that there would really be any root damage or any change in this tree's environment that would cause it to deteriorate. So I still don't see a compelling reason why a driveway can't be constructed so that the building could not be constructed at the rear of the house.
Any comments from staff?
The typical construction of a driveway would be removal of organics. I don't know what that depth would be because we don't have a geotech review, but we would be digging down to firm sub base and then adding granular material to create the medium under the traveled surface. And yes, you're correct. There can be a number of different types of surfaces that would allow for water permeation down into the substrate. The concern wasn't related to availability of water to support the tree. It was the actual excavation of the driveway and the impact on the tree. The other could be also compaction and how that may affect the root system arising from the building of the driveway itself.
Anything else, Councillor McCreary? You're on mute, Councillor McCreary.
Even if this driveway does impact some of the roots to some extent, it would only be perhaps a third or a quarter of the roots, because the driveway is not going around the tree. The driveway is simply going beside the tree. So I don't see a compelling reason for why the driveway could not be constructed. And buildings on properties are more permanent than the trees. Trees come and go, but the buildings are not moving. So the building should be positioned in the most appropriate place on the property, and the trees then planted to complement the building.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McCreary. Councillor Rowland, thank you for your patience.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to say that as the chair of the Heritage Committee, this did come to Heritage, and we did have quite the debate about it. Initially, I believe, as Councillor McCreary did, that the building should be behind the main house. At the committee meeting, the committee unanimously, everybody else outvoted me and said it should be out front. I attended the site with planning staff, with Emily and with the Becklers. We looked at the property. One of the things I noted when I was walking around looking at it was, if it's behind, it's going to be placed right against the house. If you look at page 115 of your agenda, sorry, page 15 of your agenda, it's going to be placed right next to the house to the east, I guess it is, and that'll have quite a big impact on their enjoyment of their property. Whereas if it's placed in front and the sales have agreed that it's not going to have a massive impact on their property, I think this is sort of the best compromise. It doesn't really, impact the sales too much, and it won't impact the neighbors on the other side as much. The Heritage Committee was satisfied that if the building is built with sort of similar materials to the house, the color scheme is similar, and if the building is kept to the west portion of the lot, which will not block the view of the Heritage House from the street. That was one of the main considerations. We really wanted the building to be over to the left of the lot. That way, as you're driving down Piper Street, you look up the driveway and you still see that prominent house. And that's one of the things that I think Emily has done with her design. And that's why the Heritage Committee was in favor of the garage out front.
Councilor McCreary.
Another thing I noted is the height of the garage. The proposed height's 24 feet, but the height allowed by the bylaw is only 17 feet. So we've got a 7-foot difference, which is quite substantial. Simply saying that it is not taller than the principal residence is not really a compelling reason to allow something this big in the front yard. If height was an issue, then why do we even have it in our bylaw? If this is allowed, there's no point in having the bylaw having 17 feet as the benchmark. You might as well say just as long as it isn't taller than the principal resident, it's fine. So I think this building is too large. It will overwhelm and dominate the main house. So it's inappropriate for it to be in the front yard. And it is out of character with the neighborhood, and it will look quite jarring and out of place on Piper Street. Thank
Any
you.
other comments, councilors? I was leaning to, Councilor Rowland, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to interject quickly. Councilor McCreary says it's out of place on Piper Street, but just so everyone else knows, there is a property almost across the street that does have a garage in front. I think it's 177 Piper Street. It's the house on the edge of the cliff, as we call it, and it has no backyard, so their garage actually is out front of the house.
I think what we're trying to state is, number one, we want to aesthetically fit into the neighborhood. The reason Joe Martin's put this regulation in that a garage would not be in front, because there was a place in the village where someone put a garage in the front completely blocking the view of the house. And it did aesthetically ruin the view of that neighborhood. That was the main reasons for this bylaw. When I first saw Christina Blazanovic's presentation, and it did look, I saw the picture of the garage, which does look nice, but it did look like it was the dominant feature. Now, but you're both telling me, or several you're telling me, it won't be predominant. It will be to the side, and then you will have complete view of the house, which is what we all want. We all want to see the beautiful heritage home. We don't want people to drive by and see the blank wall of a garage, which is what happened at the other residence in town here years ago. The 7-foot difference. C.O. McNeely, why is there a difference in height and variance and such? Can you explain that to us, please?
So, Madam Mayor, the reason why the extra height is required is to accommodate the recreation room, home office on the second story.
Right.
And it's with that space, we actually have a 1.5 story type structure, but the extra 7 feet in height is necessary to accommodate that activity area on the second floor.
And I think we're going to see more and more of that as people use their garages for more than just a garage. So if I see no other questions or comments, Shahid, go ahead. Hello, Shahid.
Yeah, thank you. So, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to add that for the front yard setback, is more than the required setback, which is required by the zoning bylaw. So it won't conflict with the zoning bylaw setback, front yard setback requirement as well.
Yeah, we're aware of that. We're more concerned with the blockage of the building,
Yeah.
of the heritage building. And if Councilor Rowland is being on heritage, and I bet he researched this to death. So, okay, that's, if there's no other comments, can I have the motion, please? And you don't have to read it in its entirety, Ms. Sage, unless you really feel like you want to.
So moved by Councillor Ossner and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that PD report number 61-2021 be received, and that's as presented in the staff report. Councillor Roman,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
No.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you very much. And Cynthia, you'll let us know when everybody's moved in and out for the next meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. CEO McNeely, at some point, I'd like council to be aware of the changes in the official plan that will change the growth for North Dumfries. And we need to update our council on that and the implications it may have.
Madam Mayor, that's on the December 13th committee meeting.
Thank you.
And we're ready.
Thank you, Cynthia. 7.3, report number PD 62-2021, minor variance application file number A-09-21 for 99 Stanley Street. Notice has been given to those who have requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended, and or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meeting this evening. These individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd like to introduce Shahid Magal, Township Planner, who will be presenting this application. Shahid, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council and administrations. Tonight I will be presenting a recommendation report for the property located at 99 Stanley Street. The application number is A09/21. The purpose of the application is to facilitate the construction of 4 stories condominium building, which consists of 24 stacked townhouse units with 50 parking spaces and 9 tender parking, which is not including the overall total parking. As I mentioned, the property is located at the intersection of Swan Street and Stanley Street, and the municipality address as 99 Stanley Street. The property is approximately 3,822 square meter. The public meeting was held on September 28th. The purpose of the meeting was to solicit comment from the member of public and agencies and identify the issues to address the next recommendation report to committee for consideration. Tonight, staff is presenting the recommendation report, and the purpose of the report is to advance the recommendation for committee consideration on the merit of this application. Just to give you an overview of the application, the applicant is seeking relief from the zoning bylaw provision to reduce the number of on-site parking spaces from 70 to 50 parking spaces. As I mentioned earlier, the 50 parking spaces include 19 tender parking, which is not including the overall parking. The applicant is also seeking to reduce the size of off-street parking stalls from 3.6 meter 3 meter by 6 meter to 2.7 meter by 5.5 meter for up to maximum of 6 stalls to be sized 2.6 meter and 5.5 meter as well. And the provision of the off-street parking space to be located at a 0 meter setback on the Swan Street, as you can see in the sketch, where the zoning bylaw required 1.5 meter. The applicant is proposing 4 stories building, where the zoning bylaw required 3 stories. And there's a cap on a building height, which is 12.3 meter. And the dwelling unit shall not be required or to have a direct access to the public street by means of hall or stair, where the bylaw required each dwelling unit shall have direct access to the public street by means of hall or street. The other minor variance is the proposed deck townhouse building shall be permitted to have exterior stairways, where the zoning bylaw established no exterior stairways to be permitted. So staff circulated the, as I mentioned in a previous presentation, staff circulated the submission packet to agencies and also notified the adjacent property owner. So based on the review and analysis of the application, staff recommend to the committee of adjustment to the minor variance application be approved. Based on that, the minor variance meet the 4 tests of the minor variance as required by Planning Act. The number 1 test is if the various minor variance is minor in nature. So as the applicant proposed the minor variance for the size 2.75 meter by 5.5 meter, and the zoning bylaw required 3 by 6 meter. So there's also similar dimension parking has been accepted at that 88 Gibson Street. So staff is of opinion this is very common and common in an urban setting as well. The additional relief of the provision up to maximum 6 parking stall at size of 2.6 meter by 5.5 meter will recognize the small vehicles. So it's also very common in urban setting as well. And the conclusion of the parking study, the staff also received comments concern from the member of public regarding the parking. So the applicant submitted the parking study, which addressed the number of parking spaces by controlling the parking supply only by making 1 parking space per unit available to potential residential before the occupier the unit would keep demand within the available supply. The owner shall also enter in the agreement to be registered on the title of the property to confirm the allocation of off-street parking in terms of reserved parking and access to utilize the residential parking stall after office hours or over the weekend as well. So the other thing, the parking space will be paved, lined, and numbered, and the parking passes will be issued to residents with the assigned parking spaces as well. So that's how the parking study recommending to address the parking to reduce number of parking issue as well. The existing building is 11.3 meter in height. The applicant is proposing 4 stories, which will be approximately 12.3 meter. So when you see this elevation, so basically the property will be visible like a 3.5 story because half of the property will be underground and will be like a 3.5. So it won't be look like a 4 story basically, and it won't create any negative impact to the neighboring property. And we see the existing property on the side. The property is also almost like a 3 stories and have 11.3 meters. So it's just staff understand the high difference in minor in nature. The second is the variance is desirable for the appropriate development of the land. The property is located within a built-up area, and the regional and township official plan encourage intensification within the built-up area as well. And as I said, there's already existing property which is kind of mixed use, office and 9 apartment unit. So it's also compatible with the existing surrounding properties and existing property as well. Number 3 is the general intent and purpose. The purpose of bylaw is maintained. The property is located within property zoned as zone 6, which allow the multiple residential units. And the property will be basically proposed at the rear side of the property. At the front side of the property have a mixed land use building with which consists of apartment and offices. So the current zoning also allow the multiple residential units as well. Overall, if we see The variants are shaped to reflect the nature of the proposed building and how it will fit onto the property individually as an aggregate total. The variance facility is the proposed take townhouse building while balancing the interests of the existing uses situated on the property and adjacent lands. So if you see the overall, it's fit in the overall fabric of the area or the property as well. It will be easy access to the resident, to access to the building as well. So it is also compatible with the surrounding area and fit into the property and the surrounding properties as well.
Sorry,
The other
Shahid, can I ask you a quick question so we don't have
Yeah.
to come back to the slide, just very quickly? Can you go back to slide 6?
Actually, Councillor Osner, it really isn't appropriate because we have to let the applicant speak. The planning process is pretty
I
stretched
just
out.
want clarification on the
And
picture,
you
please.
can ask for slide 6 when your question comes up, okay?
Yeah, I just want to know which part of the building is front and which part of the building is back in this picture.
This is a front, sorry, Mr. Through Madam Mayor, Councillor Osner. This is a front of the building because you can see the parking lot as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Carry on, Shahid.
Yeah, thank you. So the other test is the general intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained. As I said, the property is located within a built-up area and the subject property identified as an urban growth center by region and township official plan, and that provide the range of residential, commercial, employment, and recreational institution. Basically, it's in a downtown, and you can see generally the downtown is a hub of affordable housing or housing, mix of housing, commercial, residential, or recreation as well. And the official plan also state that the future development within the air urban will be directed predominantly to the urban growth center as well. And the township official plan policy also encourage the development in a built-up area through intensification and redevelopment as well. Public Works Department raised some concern regarding grading stormwater management that will be issued through the site plan application, as the applicant also submitted the site plan application concurrently with the minor variance application. The interested member of public, they raised some concern regarding the height, number of parking, and the appearance of the building. So which has already explained in a previous slide how we address these issues through the evaluating the 4 tests required by the Planning Act. So based on our review and analysis, it is staff recommendation to the Committee of Adjustment, the decision on the minor variance application be approved. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Shahid. Is there any comments from the applicants or their agents? Go ahead, Matthew.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. We've reviewed the staff report and recommendations, and we agree with what staff is recommending. We're excited to bring these 24 rental units to AIR. They're much needed, and we're excited about the project. We've taken a lot of time with the site, and we're happy to be nearing the end of the process so we can start construction. So the faster we get these units ready to be occupied, the better. So. We also have Craig Robson and William Thompson here to answer any questions. They are the owners of the property, but I can also answer questions of the members of the public and council or staff. So yeah, I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. I don't see anyone from the public registered. So we will go now to council. Matthew, can you lower your hand, please?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Osner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a very quick question on the design of the building. Are the applicants working with the Heritage Committee, et cetera, to really try and blend this building? Because it seems like we get the same general comments about it not fitting in this, parking stuff, and they're trying to adjust the parking as best as possible. I understand that it's actually 2.5 stories, not 4 stories, as some of the correspondence I've been reading. But it's the big thing that's gonna last down the line is design, how it's gonna fit in the location that it's in. And I think that once people see, and as Matthew has said, we sorely need rental units in town, some sort of rental units for affordability, et cetera, and housing in general. But the long term is going to be how this building looks and complements the downtown, because we're all worried about the downtown and what it's becoming, and how we can redefine its future. So I'm really concerned about how this building is going to look.
CEO McNeely.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to Councillor Ossner. Matthew and his team did come to the Heritage Advisory Committee, I guess about 6 months ago. And at that time, there was lengthy discussion about the massing and orientation of the building, its relationship to the former Queen's Hotel. And I think the committee was very pleased with the effort that had been undertaken by the ownership, both with the color of the brick being that yellow or blonde color to match the predominant style of the former Queen's Hotel, the mansard roof, and the window treatment. And while today we're only dealing with the tests to try and fit the building in the property, the site plan control agreement, if the committee is agreeable to provide the relief of the various variances that are being presented tonight, the actual elevation drawings and the massing of the building and its orientation on the property will be part of the site plan submission that then council would consider on the 13th of December. And at that time, the material mix and the elevation drawings would be part of that package, and they become
CEO McNeely is frozen again.
to the site plan control, would then inform that future building permit process when the ownership comes forward at a future date to apply for the building permit.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. Matthew Robson.
And I'll just add to that, yes, we did meet with the Heritage Committee, and they were generally satisfied with the building design. We've taken a lot of elements from the Queen's building and applied them to this new townhouse building. And we're open for suggestions too if there's something that council does not like. So we've taken a lot of time with the overall design, and we're open for recommendations. So open ears.
Thank you. Councillor Rollerman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the things that when this came to the Heritage Committee, we talked about was we don't want to mimic the Queen's building. We don't want to have another duplicate of the Queen sitting behind that building. I think Matthew and his team were aware of that when they designed this. I think the intention is that it's going to sort of blend with the Queen's, but a modern interpretation of it. We don't want to detract from the Heritage building by trying to create a replica. So I think the design we have in front of us will blend in with the Queen's in the sense that it has the same sort of coloring, same sort of palette, same sort of massing, but it's not going to be an identical building.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions from council. Could I have page 6 of the presentation brought back up, Shahid, please, the drawing? I have a couple of points. Thank you. So, you just pass it. That will do. So being on GRAC, so that's concrete stairs, is that Matthew? Yeah, Matthew or Shahid, concrete stairs going up?
Correct,
I believe
yeah.
it's a steel.
Not steel. Is it steel?
I believe we haven't gone to that point yet, but I believe it's going to be steel railings. I
Yeah,
have
it
to
looks like,
double check on the
yeah.
stairs.
I'm more concerned about the stairs for winter, for
Okay.
slippage. Yeah, that's something you can look into. It's not accessible in any way, is it?
No,
So there's no
that kind
accessibility.
of design doesn't really allow for accessibility, unfortunately, because the units are stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, and Shahid, the parking spaces in that you kept referring to urban design. And I believe that's urban design on a municipality or area that has busing, which we don't. Because you referenced that we could have, we did not require one parking space per unit. And that's true in an urban area where there's buses. In this situation, because the Robson building will be empty in the evenings and people going to work can park in that parking, as we discussed last meeting, it's not as important. But just to remember that in future meetings, that when we quote that, I think it more references municipalities that have buses, because usually you would have in a small town like Air or any of the small towns, you would have usually one per unit. CEO McNeely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, to clarify and reinforce what you're stating, the way the parking formula has been established, it equates to the equivalent of 1.25 car park spaces per stacked townhouse being available at any point in time. In the weekday evening and overnight period, as well as on weekends and statutory holidays, there would be the availability of additional car park spaces that would normally be available for the office staff. And so we were able to pick up what we'll call the peak loading factor associated with those townhouses. What is being proposed is there'll be provisions placed in the site plan control agreement to talk about the connection between the multiple activities on the site and how the parking will be available to the residents and their visitors in the overnight, evening, and weekend periods. And that gets registered on title. And so as a go forward strategy, we're able to accommodate not only the day activity of the dwelling units, but their peak loading demands when typically people are at home or they have guests.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. Councillor Osner, as you were asking about the front of the building, if you look at the drawing again and you see where the grass area is, I believe the road going by it is Swan Street. So the side would be facing Swan Street. Is that correct, Shahid?
Yeah, so this is a Swan Street, and this is the parking lot, which is rear to the existing building. So this will be the Swan Street here.
Right. And the face of the building would actually be facing towards Stanley Street.
Facing towards Stanley, yes.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, councillors? I don't see any. So can I have the motion, please, Ms. Sage?
So moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Rowland. That Committee of Adjustment receives PD report number 62-2021, and that minor variance application A09-21, being a request to seek relief from the general zoning bylaw 689-83, be approved to permit 1, a reduced number of on-site parking spaces from 72 to 50 parking spaces. 2, a reduction in size of off-street parking stalls from 3 meters by 6 meters to 2.75 meters by 5.5 meters, and up to a maximum of 6 stalls to be sized at 2.6 meters by 5.5 meters. 3, the provisions for off-street parking spaces to be located at the 0 meter setback on the Swan Street frontage, where the bylaw requires a setback of 1.5 meters. 4, a building height of 4 stories, where the bylaw establishes a building height of 3 stories. To cap the height of the proposed stacked townhouse buildings, a maximum height of 12.3 meters will be established. 5, the proposed stacked townhouse buildings and the dwelling units therein shall not be required to have direct access to a public street by means of halls or stairs, where the bylaw requires that each dwelling unit shall have direct access to a public street by means of halls or stairs. 6, the proposed stacked townhouse building shall be permitted to have exterior stairways, wherein the bylaw establishes no exterior stairways be permitted. Councillor Roman?
In favor?
Councillor Osner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. So Cynthia, thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a good evening. And Cynthia, you'll advise us when the next group is in.
Yes.
Thank you. While we're doing that, change councils, the report you'll receive in December is that there is a push on in the region that there be no further growth within the townships at all and that the countryside line be protected. And what that means is that the Ballantyne property can't come on, nor can there be any other sprawl. And it also means that, CO McNeely, it means we can only grow up or infill. Is that correct?
So, Madam Mayor, the regional council at its last meeting asked that regional staff return to a future meeting with increased densities above what they had recommended, which would mean either 65 or 70% of the future growth of the region would be within the established boundaries across the 7 area municipalities. And if that were to be achieved, then there would be very little growth outside the existing settlement boundaries across the 7 area municipalities. We actually haven't seen what the final number is, but it would be a substantial reduction over what has historically occurred within the region. And the nature of development would be, right now, the model shows 55% of the future housing starts would be high rise, and only 19% would be ground related residential. And obviously, if the region does move forward with a higher density factor, that ground related residential would even be a smaller number than what has been recommended by regional staff to date.
So we'll have an update on this in the December meeting because it's quite an impact on the townships for sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. This is 7.4 report number PD 63-2021. Proposed consent application file number B-05/20, B-06/20, B-7020 or 20, and B-08/20 for 2194 Dumfries Road. Notice has been given to those who requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended, and or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. And now I'd like to introduce Shahid Mahal, planner, who will be presenting this application. Shahid, please.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. So the next report before committee is regarding 2194 Dumfries Road. I'll be presenting the consent application for consent application B05 to B08, submitted by Scott Patterson. The purpose of the consent application was to create 3 industrial lot, 2 sewer lot, 1 residential lot, access easement and servicing easement block for the stormwater management and utilities. The property is located within a Highway 4197 employment area and municipally addressed as 2194 Dumfries. Sorry for the error here.
Yeah, it's
The property is approximately 13.23 hectare. The public meeting was held on April 27th, and the purpose of the meeting was to solicit comment from the member of public and the agencies. Tonight we'll be presenting the recommendation report. The purpose of the report is to advance a recommendation for committee consideration on the merit of the applications. As I mentioned, there's 4 applications, 2 for the sewer lot, 1 for easement, and 1 for access easement. As you can see the map, the applicant is proposing 2 new industrial lot, block 1, block 2, and the retain lot, and the 2 easement, 1 for the access easement, and number 2 is for the servicing easement. As you can see on the map, the block 1 also include a 30-meter access, which will be submitted through the access easement as well. Staff reviewed an analysis the application and recommending to the committee to approve based on the fact that the proposed development aligned with the regional and township official plan, as the property is located with the Highway 4197 employment area the applicant is proposing industrial lot, which is aligned with the official plans. Staff also circulated the application to agencies and member of public. No comments concern received from the member of public and the agencies. The proposed development is compatible with the adjacent property in terms of the use and in terms of the lot sizes. It's desirable to maintain the desirable and maintain the character of area. As I mentioned, it's an industrial lot, and the whole area is within the Highway 41 97 employment area. The proposed development will not create any negative impact on the Dumfries Road. The applicant also submitted the traffic impactment study. So based on that, it won't create any negative impact on the Dumfries Road. The site servicing, lot grading, drainage will be required through the development agreement. And the other thing is, it will contribute the economic development, and the proposed consent application will create the employment opportunity as well, as it will add 2-3 more industrial lot into the existing inventory of the employment area lots. Thanks, Madam Mayor. The other thing is, sorry, I missed a point. The applicant also submitted the zoning bylaw amendment application concurrently with the consent application, which will be presented to the next council meeting. Basically, the zoning bylaw amendment application is to remove the gravel pit, because currently there's an exception on the property, which is 20.1.113, that's allow aggregate pit to the southern portion of this property, as you can see on the map. So through zoning bylaw amendment application, that will be removed so that it could not be conflict with the industrial lot. The other thing is recognize the area of prohibition, identify a Ministry of Environment, conservation parking through the provision of holding symbol. There will be holding symbol will be affixed on the property as well. And the next is the proposed stormwater management facility is proposed to be classified as zone 12. As you can see in the sketch, there will be stormwater management facility that will be proposed as a zone 12 as an open space, and of course no development will be allowed. So based on the facts and the analysis, staff recommend to the committee that the 4 proposed consent application be approved with the condition as we have attached with the report. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Shahid. Would anyone from the agencies or the planners like to make any comments? Seeing none, councilors, any comments? Oh, I have Scott Patterson. Scott.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of committee. Just like to say that we're here in full support of the staff report and recommendation. Nothing further to add this evening, but we would like to thank staff for their efforts in getting us to this point and working with us on this project. As some are aware, we do have developers waiting to purchase these lots and bring industry and employment to the township. So we're looking forward to advancing things. Here to answer any questions.
Thank you. And there is no members of the public registered to speak. Councilors, any comments or questions? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Ms. Sage? And let me see how long this is, whether I'll make you read it all. 1 page, 2 pages, 2.5 pages. You do not have to read it in its entirety, Ms. Sage.
As moved by Councillor Osner and seconded by Councillor Gillespie, that Committee of Adjustment receives PD report number 63-2021, and that's as presented in the staff report. Councillor Rollman?
In favor.
Councillor Osner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
And Shahid and Christina, well done.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we are now going to move into return back to sitting as council. Ms. Sage, do you want to go ahead?
So moved by Councillor Rollerman and seconded by Councillor Gillespie, that pursuant to the Planning Act, the public meeting of Committee of Adjustment be adjourned at 8:03 p.m. and the council meeting be called back to order. Councillor Rollerman?
Yes.
Counselor Ossner,
Yes.
Counselor McCurry,
Yes.
Counselor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Next, we have the confirming of the proceedings of the council.
So moved by Counselor Gillespie and seconded by Counselor Rowland, that bylaw number 3289-21, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on November 23rd, 2021, be read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, signed, and sealed by the mayor and clerk. Counselor Rowland,
Yes.
Counselor Ossner,
Yes.
Counselor McCurry,
Yes.
Counselor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. And the public planning meeting completed at the next motion, please.
So moved by Counselor McCurry and seconded by Counselor Ossner, that whereas business before this public planning meeting has been completed at 8:05 p.m. and be it resolved this meeting adjourns and meets again on December 13th at 6 p.m. for council meeting. Counselor Roman,
Yes.
Counselor Ossner,
Yes.
Counselor McCurry,
Yes.
Counselor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,